Greetings, I am Tom Earl, and this is my year of depth. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy, it means the world to me. I hope you know that in this moment, you are valued, you are loved, and you are appreciated just as you are. As you can see, I am doing a solo episode today. Grateful to have you here. Today we are going to continue with some Q&A questions that we have coming in. Some really great ones here that I know you're going to enjoy. A lot of these center around marketing and if I have a big idea, a nonprofit, a song, any of that kind of stuff, how do I get it out there? So let's jump into the first one from Stacy, who has been a past guest twice now, or will be depending upon the order I release these episodes in. So Stacy asked, what sparked your passion for marketing? And I answered this on a interview with Natasha, and so I want to elaborate or share a little more if you missed it. So what's interesting is when I look back and think how marketing has been a big part of my life from the beginning. I just didn't call it marketing. So, back in the day when I was, when did I first start? 8th grade, so when am I, about 12? So back in the day when I realized I want to be a rock and roller, that's my goal, my dream in life. So I started being in bands, and I was just thinking this morning as I was coming out of my morning meditation, if you will, of all the different bands and iterations and styles and music that I've been a part of. It's been so awesome. And so for each one, especially back then before we really had the internet, if you can believe it, we did have the internet obviously, but not like we have it now. So most of what we were doing to get people to come to shows was word of mouth, but that was still marketing. And I remember when I was, 14, 15, building my first website for our band. And I remember one show specifically where we were playing in Chicago. And so it took us, an hour and a half to get there, 2 cars, quite a bit of gas. And of course we didn't get paid. So what I did is there's maybe, 100 people there. And I went around and I don't remember what I offered, but basically like a high five or a picture or a kiss on the cheek, whatever, for gas money. And that went really well. So looking back, I realized, started to see that I had this ability to communicate in a way that would move people, that they wanted to be a part of what we were doing. And then when I graduated from college and started to get into leadership development and doing consultancy, being a consultant, how do you say that word? Doing consultant gigs on leadership development, then I got passionate for creating an online course. So once I created my online course, now you've built it and they don't come, right? That's one of the myths inside of our programs that we talk about with our students, with our clients, is this myth in marketing of if you build it, they will come. Even if you're really into the law of attraction, you still gotta create some energy around bringing people in. And so I remember my first course I launched took so much time to get it recorded. I think I started recording it around June. So I recorded it, and then once it was recorded, probably took the summer, and then it took me probably from August until December 28th to get the course actually built and the Facebook ads ready to be run, all of that kind of stuff. And I remember launching it and being so excited, and no one bought a single course from me until November. So launched in December, no one bought until November. So I really had to figure out, okay, this is something I believe in, something that I really believe is going to change people's lives. And so I really had to get into, how do you market this? How do I get this out into the world? And a lot of the things that I'd already been doing, leadership development, facilitation, dialogue, psychology, humans, creativity, all of it kind of synergized into marketing. You need the creative part, you need the performance aspect, you need to understand people, you need to be able to be a deep listener. So it kind of all just synergized into this one thing that I found I was really passionate about. And so then people started asking me marketing questions since I had put a lot of stuff together and was starting to see success. And I started to realize, people are more interested in receiving my marketing knowledge than my leadership knowledge. Let me switch into the marketing side of things. And was one of the best decisions I could have ever made. So of course we cover the leadership stuff as much as we can, because with any business, you're only going to be as successful as your mindset and leadership will allow you, especially as you start to grow. When you get teams and people and customers, if you don't have the leadership capacity to support a team, if you don't have the mindset to not let our own stuff get in the way, there's only so far we're going to get, even if you have the best idea in the world. I mean, there are so many examples of businesses, best idea ever, lots of people supporting you, everything is just smooth, but the leader has a leadership crisis within themselves and drops the ball spectacularly. So I still get to merge the two quite often, but that was how I got into marketing. So I guess to summarize, or the takeaway would be, I really got into marketing to market my music and poetry, and then found that I loved marketing itself. One big shift in realization on this answer was when I moved to Los Angeles and started performing and doing shows and everything that I had been doing in Tampa and in Wisconsin. But the amount of competition was just so extraordinary. The talent was extraordinary. So it was more people, more talent, more hunger, and LA was just loud. So much louder than Wisconsin and Tampa. And so how do you make an impact without burning yourself out? That was the question I started to ask myself. So I just started to read and to listen and to watch as much as I could around how do I build relationships in a very, very, very crowded and competitive space. And not competitive as in zero sum, but I mean, I was seeing, I would go perform somewhere and, let's say I was definitely in the top 3 or 5 when I would do an open mic somewhere in, let's say, Tampa. Humbly. Let's just say humbly, okay? Or at least the top 3 or 5 of people who are really taking this serious. You would come to LA and you'd perform, and there would just be people who would just blow you out of the water. And I would realize, okay, so I'm not going to win the talent game, but talent hasn't ever been what is the deciding factor of making it, if you will. Yes, you have to have talent, but there are countless talented singers out there who people don't know their name. And there are countless singers who aren't really that good who we all know their name. And so the deciding factor, I believe, is marketing. So I got really into that. Awesome question, Stacy. Here we go. This one is coming from Nikki. So 2 awesome people that I get to work with. Of course, you've heard Nikki on the podcast as well. It was Nikki, me, and Stacy. We were doing some Q&A together. Here we go. What is a problem or common issue in the online marketing world you wish you could wave a wand and fix? This one was interesting because there's a couple ways I could take this. One is things that maybe annoy me about other people that I wish they would stop doing. And that's kind of on the judgy side of things. So I wanted to go the other way. So what is a mistake or a common issue or a problem that I see people I care about making? That's kind of how I'm going to rephrase this. So let me ask it in this way. What is a problem or common issue in the online marketing world that I see people I care about replicating and I wish I could wave a magic wand or fix? So let me start here. One of the biggest common mistakes that I see folks do is that we get an idea for something, a song, a product, a service, our nonprofit, our thought leadership, any of those things. We really believe in it. And so then we bet the farm on that idea without having first proven it out that this is what people want. So let me give you an example. When I was putting out my course, which I talked about just a few seconds ago, and only one person bought it in the whole year, that goes to show that this is not what people want. Now, of course, we could say maybe it was the marketing. Maybe I did this wrong. Maybe I did that wrong. And yet, here's the thing. Let's dial in on this a little bit even more narrow. That people come to our agency, our Facebook ads agency, and they will say, I need to get my product, my service, my thought leadership, my nonprofit. I need to get it in front of more people. And then I'll say, okay, awesome. Well, so far, how many people have purchased your product or your service? Or how many people are sharing your thought leadership? Not many. Okay. Almost none. Okay. And then they will say, and that's why I need to get it in front of more people. And so here's the thing. If the people, let's erase the word if, the people who are going to support you the most are people you have a relationship with. And so right now, the people you have a relationship with, if none of them are going to support what you do, it's a high likelihood that the flaw is not in the audience, but in the offer. Now, we can say to ourselves, well, the people I know just aren't my target audience. Well, then what we need to do is find even one person within our sphere of who we know. Either we know as in real life, as in they're our friends, or that we know from our online doings. But if just in a small micro example, if no one is taking up the charge and saying, this is awesome, I want to buy it, then when we run ads for you, and right now maybe you're in front of 50 people, and I get you in front of an audience of 300,000 people, you're just going to get most likely a resounding no from, instead of 5 people, you're going to get it from 300,000. And so the problem isn't always, I need more people to see this. More likely the problem is either in A, how am I communicating this thing? Or B, I'm communicating this thing in a really awesome way and people still don't want it. What we see a lot is that people become so attached to their ideas, their product, their service, their thought leadership in the way that it currently is, that it doesn't allow space for evolution. Just the other day, we were talking to a student and we're sharing this very thing. I always say to people, your course, your product, your service, it is not you. It is not your brand. It is an extension of you and your brand, but it is not you. And so you have to be prepared that it is almost guaranteed that if you are just starting to sell something for the first time, and I don't mean that this is the first thing you've ever sold. I mean, if you're putting a new product out there into the world, it is highly likely, if not guaranteed, that in the way you're putting it out now is not the way it is going to be when people finally start buying it. You are going to need to evolve it and change it, because one of the most important things we can do as marketers is to listen. And so before I put something out there, I'm really going by my gut. And our gut is awesome. Don't underestimate your gut. Your gut is able to accumulate so much knowledge and intention and intuition, subconscious, conscious. That's really such a powerful algorithm, is our gut. And so if your gut is saying, I think this is what people want, that is an awesome starting point. And then you put it out, and we need to hear where people get stuck. This sounds like a really awesome idea, but what about this? And then you go back and forth with them and you see, can you move them past that, what we call objection or that worry or that hesitation? And as you're moving them past it, you are going to hear, oh, that's what you want. Okay, yeah, I can do that. And they're like, okay, cool. If you can do that, I'm almost there, but can you also do this? And you're thinking, yeah, actually, we can do that too. That's not exactly how I thought I was going to do it, but I can totally see how that'd be awesome. Let's do it. And the more of those conversations you have where somebody says, what about this? And if it aligns, if you're putting out there, I'm selling cars, and somebody says, what I'd really like is a bed. I want a bed to sleep in. That's really the biggest need I have, not a car. And you're like, well, as a matter of fact, I was just thinking of starting a mattress store. Not like that. But if somebody says, I want a car, and you're selling muscle cars, for example, somebody says, well, I'm really looking for more of a fuel efficient car that, since we live in LA, is easy to park and great safety ratings. And let's say you talk to 300 people and that's all what they say. Well, you can either say in the same selling your muscle cars, but you probably got to move, or you got to find a different space, or you can either create a muscle car that has all the things they're talking about, or switch to selling a different kind of car. So most people listening here aren't really selling cars. So I hope that translates. We can use my own example, is that when I started with the leadership program, I got one person to buy and they were a raving fan about it. And then I started to do more Q&A episodes like this. And I'd say, tell me your questions. 99.9% of them were around marketing rather than leadership. So I started to answer a bunch of marketing questions. Okay, I can answer your marketing questions. And then I started having people DM me or call me and text me and saying, hey, do you have a course or do you have a group coaching program on marketing? I thought, I don't. I have a leadership one. Well, that's awesome, but what I'm looking for is this. And so then what I started to do was to say, well, I actually am passionate about talking about this marketing stuff. Let me create a product around marketing. And so then had a bunch of people on that. It was the Inner Power Group Coaching, if you remember us talking about that. And that was all centered around marketing, mainly organic marketing, social media marketing. That went really great. Did that for a year. And then I started to notice this isn't growing at the rate that I anticipated. Right away, we had a huge explosion and we would sustain. We had people who stayed with us for a whole year, but it just wasn't growing as I'd wanted it to. The other thing that was happening is I was in a couple Facebook groups where I really respected the people that were in the group, and they were definitely the kind of people I want to work with. And people would say, hey, I'm looking for some help with my social media marketing. Can anyone help? And within an hour, 30 people would say, I can. So I started to inside myself say, okay, clearly there is a demand for this, but sort of like being a musician in LA, there is also a lot of supply. And I started noticing when people would ask questions about paid marketing, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, maybe one or two people would respond. And I also noticed when I was on sales calls, when I started to talk about paid traffic, people would get really excited. The other thing I noticed is when I would switch from saying, hey, I can teach you how to do this, to I can do this for you, people would get even more excited. So then I started to combine the two. Okay, I am going to become an expert at paid traffic. And I'm going to offer that I can do it for you rather than just teach you it. So then I started to say to people, hey, do you want me to run your Facebook ads? Boom, people were in. And so that was kind of my evolution of seeing, oh, this is what people want. This is what people want. That example to share, I have noticed that not many people are willing to do that. I'm going back to the story I was telling you. I was explaining this to one of our students, and she shared with us, hey, I have been working on this course for years. I'm going to put it out exactly as it is. If people don't buy it, then I quit. I'm not going to iterate it. I'm not going to change it up. That's it. And that is a common thing we've seen. And I understand why. I have seen also for people who pivot almost all the time based upon their passion. I want to do this. They try for a little bit. People don't like it. I want to try this. This feels good. They try it. People don't like it. they move on. And I've seen that people reach an end of the line of, I'm sick of trying things. And I get that. And 95% of offers, 95% of the ideas that we put out there, they don't become the big dream that we've been sold that they will become. It takes that continual pivot and iteration and really trying to determine, is this something people want? And are they willing to pay for it? And then most importantly, is it something that I can sustain? A lot of people come to me and they want to start membership programs. For those of you who don't know, a membership program is usually lower ticket, so it'll be anywhere between $10 to $100 a month usually. And you basically just teach something new each month, or they get something new each month. And the way it's sold is that it's a subscription model. And the subscription model makes sense because we have seen that all of us are on a subscription model these days. I did the subscription model myself. That's what Inner Power Group Coaching was. And yes, it works great to have that reoccurring revenue come in. Now, the problem with membership programs is that you really need a huge volume of people for it to actually replace your salary or your day job income. For example, let's say you say to yourself, I need to make $5,000 a month in order for me to be able to quit my job. So if you give me all of 3 seconds, I'm pulling out my calculator. So let's say you're selling yours for $30. So you would need 166 students in your program in order for that to add up to $5,000. Let's do the math one more time. 166 times 30 equals 4,980. And then let's multiply that by 15% for taxes. So you're really at 4,000. So you probably need about 200 people a month. That is challenging. It is sold as, oh, it's $30. People aren't even going to have to consider, here's my $30. They're going to be like, that's such an easy decision. So I guess I'm going into a bunch of things. This is a good question, Nikki. That annoy me. Look, getting somebody to part with $5 a month is just as challenging as trying to get them to part with $3,000 a month. Yes, it is going to take a bit more work. And by work, we mean it's going to take a bit more relationship building to sell a high ticket than a $5 a month. But people are still going to be very discerning even about a $5 a month program, maybe $1. If you were to say this is $1. But here's the thing. I have seen for myself, I've seen for other people, when you're just trying to build the social proof where you say, hey, I believe in you. I'll give you a scholarship. You can do this for free. Even for free, people are thinking, let me think about it. And so trying to get 200 people to sign up for your program, the price isn't going to be the variable. I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, we want it to kind of be a program where it's so cheap, where they subscribe and then they just forget they subscribed and they just stay on for forever, like Netflix. Here's the thing. Netflix delivers way more value than 99.9% of these membership programs out there that are priced the same as Netflix. Think about how much content, high quality content, Netflix is constantly putting out. Not only that, but they also have FOMO on their side, fear of missing out. When Tiger King comes out, or Bridgerton, or any of those things that everybody in your timeline's talking about and you can't talk about, you don't know what they're talking about because you haven't seen it. They also have that going for them, which it is unlikely our program does. And so going for this approach of, if I price it as cheap as possible, I will have success, is a flawed premise. My opinion is that you should raise your price as much as your mindset will allow you to. Because to be honest, you're going to have to sell person by person in the beginning, whether it's for $10 or whether it's for $10,000. And when you get one person to sign up, if you get 200 people to sign up at $10 and you get that one person who finally signs up at $10,000, game changer. Game changer. And here's the thing, it might take you an entire year to figure out how to get someone to purchase at high ticket. Iterating and going through objections and figuring this out and figuring that out. But once you figure it out, now it becomes replicable. And so that's what I come back to with Nikki's question, is most people don't anticipate how long it's going to take them to figure out what is that process, what is that product, what is the things I need to say that creates the process where I start getting the yes. And speaking this out loud, most often the thing we blame first is the price, and it rarely has anything to do with the price. The second thing we blame is that it's not getting out in front of enough people. Rarely has anything to do with it not getting out in front of enough people. If 10 people, it doesn't work on 10 people, it's not going to work on 100 people. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts or disagreements on that one. Always excited and happy to hear from y'all. Let's jump into one more before we depart. And those following along with the episode title, we haven't yet talked about this last question. And the question is it possible for marketing to be ethical, or is it inherently unethical? This is a great question, and one that all of us who engage in marketing need to reflect upon. It really comes back to, is marketing, is sales inherently manipulative? And it is certainly convincing. It is certainly influential. And so the intention, the tactics, and the application 100% matter. Obviously, if the intention is incorrect, if the intention is unethical, then the rest of the journey is going to be too. But there are times where you can have the right intention and the application comes out all wrong. We've seen this many times where corporations think this is a good idea, and then we all are wondering, how the heck did this happen? And then the tools themselves, especially as we start to talk more and more about big data, about AI, about all these things. There's a great documentary out right now on Netflix about discrimination in artificial intelligence. Planning on doing a podcast talking about that coming up. But let's kind of keep it granular. Let's keep it for all of us. For me, many of the tools and tactics that we use in marketing are themselves neutral. How you use them is really going to determine if they're ethical or not. One of my mentors has a phrase called ethical propaganda, and that's Kurt Malley. We have a whole episode with Kurt Malley, tommerl.me, tommerl.com/Kurt. And what it talks about, let's go through Kurt's ethical propaganda, is really, if you have a belief system, which we all do if we're selling something, whether it's thought leadership, nonprofit, etc., we want to find people who align with that belief system, and we want to create this space where we are able to grow in relationship with each other. Now, one of the big things that come up whenever we talk about the ethics of marketing is people come back to this word pain point. Now, if we go way back, we'll tell this story sometime on a different podcast. Edward Bernays, when he started to understand that marketing is really a psychological game, not a logical game. Most of us make the mistake of trying to convince people through logic when everybody is actually moved through their emotions. And so pain point for most people is that I need to agitate an insecurity within you, and then I need to resolve that insecurity, of course, with my solution. This is why so many of us have body image issues, self-esteem issues, why white supremacy is perpetuated through media and marketing. I was just seeing a recent statistic, 10,000 pieces of marketing a day. And if they all carry the same image of this is what's beautiful, this is what you should aspire to, this is what you should strive to at all costs. Anything else is less than, is ugly, is unworthy. And buy our product to achieve this level of beauty. To me, that's not just unethical, it's white supremacy. So for us, if we view pain points really as my definition of a pain point is an unsolved problem. That if you genuinely right now have an unsolved problem, for example, you have a nonprofit or thought leadership or a product or service that genuinely is going to help people, but there is a disconnect in how you are marketing it. In other words, when people finally sit down and really understand what you're doing, they go, this is amazing. Why don't more people know about it? And most likely it's in your marketing. So then if we were to identify what are the unsolved problems that your audience has that you solve, and we were to address it in this way, to me, that's ethical. You are starting from a place of service rather than manipulating you so I can get something. And so it's really kind of a fine tuning. It starts really with intentions. If you have values of equity, if you have values of human decency, all of these things, that usually carries through. But here's the thing that I notice is we'll go back to this analogy you might have heard, is that if you have a boiling pot of water and you throw a frog in it, the frog will jump out. I don't know who's done these experiments. These are things we hear. But if you put a frog in water that is room temperature and then slowly boil it, the frog doesn't realize that the incremental temperature increase is actually killing it. Yikes, when you put it that way, Tom. And so it's the same thing for all of us, that we set out with intentions, and then when things aren't working, we try something that might be just a little bit outside our ethics. And let's say it gets us the results. And a voice in our head says, ooh, I didn't like how we went about doing that. But then another voice says, yes, but look at the people we've helped. And so we start to fall into these ends justify the means mentality. And so that gap of what we're doing and what our ethics, the standard we want to hold to ourselves to, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And as it gets bigger, the stakes usually get higher, because let's say you're running a business and you enlarge your ethics gap by just a little bit and you get one customer. You're like, well, it worked for them. Let me keep doing this. And so now maybe you got 50 customers, but then to get to 500 customers, you enlarge that gap just a little more. And by the time you have 30,000 customers, the gap is huge. And because you are able to impact so many people, and now you're probably under a bigger microscope, that larger gap exponentially has a bigger impact. It's always good to reflect upon, am I falling into this ends justify the means? We talk about in another podcast episode how rationalization is really just another word for lying. When I rationalize something, it's trying to use persuasion on myself to justify the leaving behind of my ethics. And when you really start to put in money into that, where I'm making money from this, and then we use the mission to rationalize it, it can get a deadly combo. So you just want to keep your ethics and you want to keep your values front and center in everything you do, and really be open to feedback, because for all of us, that line of have I slippery slope conversation my way into something. But if you get somebody else in there who can be a little more subjective, you can get somebody else in there who isn't as close to it, and they give you feedback, this isn't really sitting right. And you tell that person, no, you just don't get it. And then another person tells you, and another. Do you stop surrounding yourself with those people? Do you ignore those people? Or do you reflect upon it and consider, there might be something to this? So not able to answer that one as definitively as the others, but my conclusion here is that it's really in the intention, the action, and the application. And if those three are in alignment, then marketing absolutely can be ethical. And those of us who have important missions, we're usually the ones to shy away from marketing because we are so ethical. Whereas those who usually don't have a product or a service or a business that in its intention, in its base is ethical, they're going to be the most likely to not care whether their marketing is ethical or not. All they want is the bottom line. And so those of us who do care, who do have ethics, we need to make sure that we are not letting our message get lost in the storm because we are so afraid that possibly our marketing isn't 100% ethical. And instead, really that just starts to become an excuse. It starts to become a coping mechanism for our fear of insert what the fear might be. My friends, this has been an absolute pleasure getting to hang out here with you today. Let me know how you've been enjoying these solo episodes, the way we've been doing them, the new things we've been testing out. Would love to hear your perspective, your feedback. We do have a special treat for you. If you're looking to take your marketing to the next level, we do have a boot camp for you. Facebook Ads Bootcamp, although for those of you who maybe want to just learn about marketing, it's great marketing too. So the first part 1 of the bootcamp really goes into the psychology of marketing, and part 2 of the bootcamp really goes into the exact system we use for all of our clients called the retargeting runway. You can get that by going to tomearl.me/FBads. tomearl.me, FB as in Facebook, ads, tomearl.me/FBads. You'll find that down below in the show notes as well. You can get at me at Tom Earl Artist, email tom@tomearl.com. My invitation to you all today is to reflect upon your ability to rethink a belief you have that you almost take as sacred. How flexible are you in reconsidering an aspect of your identity and reconsidering something you are taking not just as truth, but as fact, not just as fact, but written in stone? Most importantly, in the terms of the context of this conversation, most importantly, in your business. What is something that you are so unmovable on that quite possibly, because you are so immovable on it, because you are so stiff and brittle, that it is going to be what will break your business? So check in with yourself. What is that thing that when a new idea comes up, you shut down or you get loud rather than listening? Reflect upon that, my friends, and see what is underneath there. Because oftentimes it's those things we're taking to be fact that reveal our ignorance and our boisterousness to hide it. My friends, this has been the best. As always, I'm wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.